It gets weird, and apparently something that the Smithsonian is up to with people like Harper's Lewis Lapham and Penis Gabriel. But the military laid out a sketch of entrapment and torture operation, in which they gave a child who was traumatized nowhere else to run but a shack that was evidently built by his brother-in-law, Jeff Thompson. And they brought in a child prostitute who was his age and who was fully informed that she was working for the fascist military in a major revenge operation for World War II. And it was honored by the state of Pennsylvania authorities, even after they found out that extreme right wingers from the Russian Federation were in on it with Peter Waters of Pink Floyd and Robert Fripp and an Attica State Prison psychiatrist named Wattenmaker. He was working with Attenborough, Schwarzenegger. Wattenmaker, Attenborough, and Schwarzenegger were the rhythmic teamsters of the Apache style of the fascist totalitarian leapfrog oligarchs who are squeezing everybody with their methods now. And they've tried to make it look like it was an overdose that I passed out. I woke up in the car. My mother was taking me to the hospital and screaming at me. And Brecker had fudged his taking a drug like Tuinol by saying he was drunk. So I said I was drinking some whiskey. I don't know what was going on in my mother's senses that she turned around from the hospital, but I was freaking out about being taken to the hospital. The drugs that I was given, I don't remember what they were. I think it was a Tuinol that was given to me by Brecker, and I was in the back seat of a stolen car. I'm not sure the car was stolen. They brought it up from the state police barracks by Michael Martino's house. It was Ken Ferry and James Kasparowski who hustled me into the back seat and then crashed the car. And you're supposed to believe that this is proof of delinquency. Well, it was a script, and I had been battered, senseless, and weapons, including a pistol, had been exhibited towards me. My glasses were taken and put in peanut butter. I was humiliated. I was stalked outside of school. I had pleaded with the principal of the school that I was going to be killed. And these men showed up and said, follow us. And there was nothing else I could think of to do. And they pushed hard drugs on me and said, swallow these. There was nothing else I could think of to do. Now, you can tell me what you think I should have done. Found another mother, found another school principal, run away to Arizona. What I did do was try to get us out in the neighborhood. I bought a car for them so they would stop stealing cars. It didn't do any good. Adults were pouring alcohol. I asked the Liquor Control Board in the state of Pennsylvania, is it legal for 21-year-old violent criminals to purposefully and forcefully intoxicate a battered 12 or 13-year-old? And they said no. I said, what about, is it legal for them to force inhalants on a 12 or 13-year-old? Liquor Control Board said, I don't know. There's the judgment problem in the state of Pennsylvania. What do you mean you don't know? I went to a woodworker and asked him. He said, I wouldn't give inhalants to a child if they were begging for them. Oh, I certainly wasn't begging for them. The murderers had threatened to kill another child if he didn't lead me into their trap. So I'm dealing with the criminally insane, and they're lashing out every which way at people. They evidently have invested a great deal of money in Martin Sheen's Hollywood to pull off this military script that they forcefully induced me They weren't about to let me get out of it. It was an involuntary draft. How do you translate? What does OD stand for? Oppressive dictatorship. It's criminally insane. I mean, there's no meaning to any of the mentalizations that come down through the highway of the St. Louis Post Dispatch and the various other outlets that seek how to Trumpy tune. Poisoning me in the mouth is a symbol for their plan to release COVID. God knows what they're up to now. You know, I think the answer to the problem is to take at face value that I was battered, senseless, tortured, and forced to do these things. Forced because the script says swallow nearly killed you. Swallow nearly killed me. That's what the script says. Where's the difference between what I say and what they say that you come up with this idea that I'm lying? Well, the reason they're coming up with this idea that I am lying is because they see it as a popular overthrow. And they think that they can just say that I'm lying, and people will say, well, that's popular. That's a nice idea. Well, it's playing out. What they pot boiled was like television media. The media sex is a disturbance of the underworld or something. Where are the feminists who have approved this? I was just a child. I mean, Jack Ruby's Carousel Club existed before I was even born. I certainly didn't invent pornography. I was a little boy when I first saw Playboy magazine on a hidden rack at the Squirrel Hill newsstand. What's that got to do with me? And people start hiring hookers to cover for their kidnapping ordeals. What's that got to do with me? And they say, "Oh, well, you're to blame because your reputation is gone because this happened to you." My reputation is gone because I was attacked blindside from the back by armed men. What kind of federal government do you have here? What kind of government at all? It's no wonder the Russians come swooping in to poach you. You're so savage to your own children. You won't even look for in the eye the outrage of this absurd farce that Martin Sheen has mongered. It's absurd. It's an absurd farce. It's an attack on me because my father wrote Humanizing the School, evidently. They don't like public schools. They said, we'll just make a mockery of the public schools by torturing a symbol for them in broad daylight. What the hell? And look, I'm in from the same ship as George Bush. Where the hell were the Bushes when this was going on? They were saying, oh, it was an overdose. It was an overdose? The drugs were everywhere in those days. Drugs were everywhere in those days. I was targeted by NAM veterans when I was 12 or 13 years old. I was called a picky eater by the same woman who spreads this stuff about drugs were everywhere. Because I didn't want carbonation. I didn't want pizza. I didn't want anything too strong. I was scared to death to disobey men who had throttled me, battered me, and tortured me. And they're sending ultra waves of John Lennon stuff. Everybody must get stoned, right? And it's the same fascist pig, Bob Dylan, who was in on the hit of Circe and then wrote a song about the martyr JFK. Everybody must get stoned. He's the one who did all of the toxing and the doctrine for toxing. And now he's saying that somebody they kidnapped and tortured was overdosed. Nearly killed me, swallowed. Nearly killed me. It's right there in the script. I've put it up dozens of times. Nobody cares. They think it's funny. Well, those are funny. I mean, I think it's sickening. I'm not going to be the person who says it's okay to start World War III. You stupids are doing that. What kind of stupid thing are you doing? If you're going to stand up against drugs, the first thing you do is make clear to the popular consciousness leaders that you're not going to blame the children when they write songs promoting drugs, especially when you kidnap and torture the children.